hand out, or we're going to do worse unto you. That's saying to me that Lot had favor every time he saw them in Gomorrah. Just because he was in that city, Sin City, just because he was in Vegas, he didn't let Vegas take care of him. So he did not sin, and they didn't touch him. He had the protection of Yah. All the time he was in Sodom and Gomorrah, and it was all about that lifestyle. You know how it was in Sodom and Gomorrah. But since Lot was in the favor, and I believe Lot was doing everything that he's supposed to do, keeping the judgments and the commandments and the law and the precepts of Yah, that's why he had the protection and covered of Yah and was not touched. Amen. And again, this shows about Yah's provision. And even though it was in a cave, Yah provided for that cave. Even though it wasn't the first cave that he wanted Lot to go to, but he still shows his provision, his love for us outside of his will. Yah still provides for us. Just like when Adam and Eve sinned, and they hid themselves, and then they made some clothing out of some leaves. Yah took over and showed his provision by killing animals and making some skins and covered them with his protection. And this was the first sacrifice. The thing about us, we always fear things. And then we run back to caves, or we run back. And what I mean by this, once we get delivered from Yah, from things of the enemy, and if another task or trial comes, we always run back to the things that once was before. We always run back. For example, females, Yah, if you take me out of this relationship, I won't go back to that man. But then all of a sudden something happens, they go right back to that man that you got delivered from. You ask to get delivered from, but then you go to something else that might even be better than what it was before, but you always go back to that cave or that same relationship that then it's going to be 10 times worse than it was before. Some of them was not thrown in caves by their own choice or ran to a cave because of fear. Sometimes Yah throws you in a cave to test your faith. We're talking about faith over fear. And the book of Daniel, of course, the 3 Hebrew boys, how by choice, they wasn't thrown into a cave. It was because they held fast to their faith. When you hold fast to your faith, it doesn't matter if you get thrown to a cave or you walk into a cave yourself. Yah will always be there to protect you and pull you out. In Nebuchadnezzar, they was ordered to do something. They was ordered to serve another idol, serve a god, or you'd be thrown into the fiery furnace. But the boldness, when you're in the power of Yah, you have this boldness that said, we were not going to do that. They told Nebuchadnezzar, we don't care if you throw us in there or not. We know that our Yah can save us no matter what. And this got Nebuchadnezzar so hot, I think he was even hotter than the furnace that he threw him in. He said, heated up 7 times than it was before. But we know the end of that story, that they came out smelling like the essence in the presence of Yah. They didn't have no smoke. They didn't have no singes. Nothing burned. Only thing was burned was the ropes that was binding them. Because Yeshua was in there with them. They said it was man like 4. And also in the same book, Daniel. Daniel was thrown in the lion's den. But you don't hear nothing about Daniel in there crying and Daniel in there begging for his life. All he did was pray. And he said the same thing. He said, so be it. If I pass, I'll pass. But I know that my Lord, Yah, can get me out of this if he deems so. The boldness of him to say that. And then what happened after that? Untouched. He said he was using the lions as a pillow that night. And another one, and my favorite, I love David. King David. King David on the run from Saul. He wasn't thrown in a pit, but he not of his own power, because Saul, was with that haughty spirit I talked about in my last sermon. So he had to run. He had to run from Saul, and he had to run from his own son Absalom. But what did he do? David took, like the bishop said, he took him to the hills and to the caves. But Yah was there with his provisions, and he kept him there until it was time for David to take rule over his throne. But they didn't succumb to the fear. They didn't let the fear overtake them. But they remembered all the promises and the provisions of Yah, and this kept them through. The thing is, they remembered. Unlike Adam and Eve, unlike Lot, unlike Gilead and all the other ones, they forgot all about the promises and the blessings and the power of Yah, and it's bestowed onto them. And then when a challenge came, they forgot and they turned tail and ran back to the things that was not. And this is especially for the children of Israel. Again, they remembered they did not remember one thing that y'all did for them, especially getting out of the nation of Egypt, getting out of that land, and then crossing the Red Sea. They didn't remember none of that. They didn't remember the manna, the pheasants, the bitter waters turned sweet. They didn't remember the cloud by day and the pillar at night. What they did remember was when they got to the promised land. The thing about the promised land, I put a D on the end of it. I call it promised land because y'all promised that land to the children of Israel. And they didn't remember that. The promised land, or if you call it promised or promised land, he promised that land. And what they did remember was when the 12 spies went over that land and came back, that they came back with not more than big grapes and fruit. They came back with stories of giants and how we looked like grasshoppers amongst them. But the thing is, though, what hit me was that was promised to them. Moses told the 12 spies to go out there to survey the land, like basically it's like, it came to my mind like when you get a new house or something like that where we were kids and then your parents say, go pick out your room. Oh, I want this room. Oh, this is going to be my room. Oh, I'm going to put my sofa right here. I'm going to put my TV right here. That's what y'all told Moses to tell the 12 spies to go do. Basically what saying is go out and pick out your part of the land that I promised you. He did not say go over there and see who was over your neighbors were and then come back scared. Oh, we can't move that neighborhood right there. Because it was already promised. Henceforth the name Promised Land. So that's why I don't understand to this day. It was already given unto you. But what happened when they crossed back over and they gave a bad report and told them that we can't go over there. It's already filled up with giants, already filled up with people, already the Amorites and all these Hivites, all these ites. When my deacon in the back of the old church, all these ites over there. And they said, we can't go over there. So what happened was they turned tail and ran back into the wilderness. Once again, I'll come every time that we have, when y'all shows his power within us and shows his favor, but when we get to another adversary that's bigger than the last challenge, we turn tail and run back to this cave, run back into the wilderness, run back into the woods. I don't understand that because they already got promised that stuff. And then they didn't run just back, they ran back 40 years. Because what y'all did, he punished them for doing that. He said, y'all will not see the promised land. They ran back 40 years. And the thing about it, though, they could not hide. Even the thing about it, even the enemy had crossed over and they tried to run up into the hills and in the caves. But they still found them there and they slew them. Am I? But we're going to go into today's text about Elijah, mighty man of God, who got scared and he ran into a cave. So today's text was 1 Kings chapter 18. 1 Kings chapter 18, and we're going to talk about the prophet of Yah, Elijah. A mighty man of Yah, great power, boldness, but at one moment in time he got scared and he ran. Now if you go the story about Elijah, we know that in chapter 18, Elijah, it was a prophet. But Elijah was a man, and he had great boldness. And I like the prophet Elijah because of his boldness. Because the things he was doing for Yah, he knew he was empowered, he knew he was anointed, and he knew he was calling to take down the things that was not of Yah. And the most one is the famous victory at Mount Carmel. And the thing was, he was so bold that Elijah, going to chapter 18 verse 7, when he requested to see the king Ahab. And at this time, if you don't know, you know the story that King Ahab was a king that was killing all the prophets and anything to do with Yah because of his wife Jezebel. And the thing about it, going to verse 7, and as Obadiah was in the way, behold, Elijah met him, and he knew him, and fell on his face, and said, Art thou my Lord Elijah? Which was saying that he knew that Elijah was, I guess you say, top dog, the prophet, Yah's top man. And he knew him, and he gave him reverence to him as greeting him as being a prophet. And he answered him, I am. Go and tell thy Lord, behold, Elijah is here. Basically, what he was saying is, like, I'm here, y'all want you to go tell that king that Elijah is on the scene. I got something I want to say. The boldness of Elijah to say that, because Elijah knew too that he was risking his life to go talk to King Ahab, because Ahab was killing all the prophets and anything to do with Yah. Of course, we know by the command of Satan was doing that. And but Obadiah, I can see Obadiah's eyes getting big right now, and he said, as the Lord, and he said, verse 9, and he said in verse 9, and he said, what have I sinned that thou delivered thy servant unto the hand of Ahab to slay me? Basically what he's saying in layman's term, he said, Elijah, sir, are you crazy? You want me to go back to, I just left and escaped that place. You want me to go back to the man that's killing me and say all this? Now, who does that remind you of? Moses. Moses did the same thing at the burning bush. He said, when y'all told him, I want you to go to tell Pharaoh to let my people go. And then the same thing what Brother Faber was saying last night. Is he said, but this time, in reverence, Moses was pretty smarter than that. He came up with all these excuses why he couldn't go back. He said, oh, no, I don't talk well. They want to kill me. Then he started saying, I don't speak well. I stutter or have a speech impairment. The same thing was Obadiah was doing to Elijah. He said, but he's saying, are you serious? You want me to go back? This man is trying to kill me and you, but you want me to come and tell me that you're coming. So, but then the boldness of Elijah was saying that, yes, I'm coming, but I'm not coming by myself. I got the power and I got the authority. I'm coming in the highest name of Yah. And I got something I need to say. But as you know the story that Obadiah did go tell King Ahab that Elijah over here, and Elijah did meet with King Ahab. But you know that Ahab did not do anything to him. As like the bishop was saying, that Moses walked right up into Pharaoh, was not touched. Same thing happened to Elijah. He walked up to King Ahab, and King Ahab had to bow in reverence to him, because Elijah had an answer for him. He said, there is going to be some rain coming, and I've got the answer to your problems, because Yah has sent me to deliver you from these problems. Not because of you, because of the people that you're supposed to be serving. Am Now, from all this, that was chapter 18. So from all this, chapter 18 was showing the boldness, the strength, and the power of a man of God. And like Brother Fabian was saying last night, how do you go from 1 minute being powerful, being in favor, being strong and mighty in valor in war, to the next minute turning away and running scared, or falling into sin as Gilead did? And this is what Elijah did from chapter 18. And now we're going to chapter 19, how a few words from somebody that wasn't even king scared Elijah to take up his things and run in the middle of the night. So you go to chapter 19, 1 Kings. Wow. Verse 1. And Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done. Let me go back. The victory of Mount Carmel, when Elijah, the boldness of Elijah when he won that battle, that epic battle between the prophets of Baal and you know the story how the sacrifices was drenched in water, and they called down to their gods, the prophets of Baal, but nothing happened. And the boldness of Elijah, he was mocking them and saying, maybe your gods are asleep, maybe they're not all that. And that's the boldness. Because Elijah knew that he was going to win. It was a fixed fight. Elijah knew that he was going to win this battle. So Elijah called down the power of Yah, and we all know the story that it burnt everything. It even lit up the water around the trenches, burnt up the prophets, and burnt up the people around them. But the people saw this, and they believed on Yah once again. And that's what Brother Fabian was saying, that Yah uses these things to get his people to turn back to him, to see his power. And he also gets, and Yah gets the glory. But this didn't sit too well with Queen Jezebel. So this what happened was when Ahab in chapter 19, when he told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, and with all how he had slain all the prophets with the sword. Yes. Then Jezebel sent a messenger unto Elijah, saying, so let the gods do to me and more also, if I make not my life as the life of the one of them by tomorrow at about this time. What he was saying, he just put out a death threat to Elijah, saying, by tomorrow, Elijah's going to be a dead man, just a dead man walking. And word got back to Elijah, and he got so afraid about losing his life that he picked up his stuff and he ran. And I'm thinking it had to be the middle of the night because he said by tomorrow. By tomorrow. So word got, he picked up his stuff and snuck out of the town in the middle of the night. So once again, we talking about a man, chapter 18, Elijah, over mocking all the prophets in their face. And the prophets, you have to think about it. In this ethnic battle on Mount Carmel, the prophets were there to sacrifices, but the king was there and the armies of the king were also there. Elijah didn't show no fear. Even after that, he commanded all the prophets of Baal to be killed by the river and by the valley, by the brook of Kishon, and slew them all there. He was a man large and in charge and wasn't scared of nothing. But 3 words or 4 words from a lady, I will kill you, has this man grabbing all his belongings in the middle of the night and running into the wilderness, out of the city, into a cave. And this is one thing I learned about. Most fears that we have are, we acquire them and we keep them throughout the years. And an example of this, and when I say that because I was thinking about how can a man be so strong one day and run the next day. So I'm thinking about fear. And going back to that perfect love, how fear torments us. You think about the children of Israel, they wasn't fearing anything after the Red Sea because the Lord Yah was with them. They didn't fear anything until they got, to the promised land, and then they started fearing everything. They was fearing themselves mostly. But going back to David and the armies of Israel, remember David and Goliath. David didn't have no fear of Goliath because David didn't know Goliath. David knew Yah. But the armies knew Goliath because remember, there was 40 days Goliath was coming down there challenging them. Any man want to come down here and challenge me? If you win, you win. If I lose, y'all still lose. But 40 days. So this fear had to be instilled in the armies of Israel for them to be so tormented and fear that no man, not even Saul, wanted to go down there and challenge Goliath. But David didn't know Goliath. 3 things I noticed with David about this was he was filled with the Holy Spirit, Parakadish. 2, he knew his identity in Yah. He was anointed. Remember, Samuel came and anointed David. He was to be king. He knew who he was in Yah and knew who he was going to be. And 3, again, he didn't know Goliath. So that's one thing. He didn't have no fear of Goliath because he didn't know him. So what was there to fear about? And in the boldness of him, when he was so filled with the Spirit and he knew his identity, what did he say when he got there? He said, who was this uncircumcised Philistine that comes and defiles the armies of Yah, the armies of the living Yah? So he questioned that. He didn't have no fear. He just got there to deliver some lunch. But then he turned and hear all this smack talking, and he was like, well, who is this? Who is this person talking about? Uncircumcised. That means you're not even nobody. You're beneath us because you're not even in the children of Israel. You're a Gentile. That's right. He said, who are you to do this? But everybody was saying, oh, that's Goliath. That's Goliath. Oh, he has the spear and this tall and cubits and all that. But David showed no fear. What David said, remember, was his power that Yah instilled upon him. He said, I don't know about all that, about being a fight man, but I do remember that I killed a lion and I killed a bear. And I killed them with the power of Yah behind me. That's right. So Goliath presented himself for 40 days and still fearing to the people. And that's what Satan does to us. He'd say, if you allow him to set that fear into the people, and then that's when you lose heart and you lose faith. So Elijah feared of Ahab and Jezebel was from a time past. Elijah, it was not the first time that Elijah was facing off against Ahab and Jezebel. This has been a long going battle through the previous kings and up to now. It's always the prophet and always the king. Always had it out for the men of Yah. Am I? So we talked about the death threats and everything. Now going back to chapter 19, Elijah's on the run. He turned tail, grabbed his coat, grabbed his hat, and now he's running out of the city into the wilderness, and then he goes into the cave. But then again, this is what I love about Yah, that he gives us, that he did a lot. Even though he was in a cave, he still provided for a lot, and he still provides for Elijah, he still provides for us, even when we're in a place that we're not supposed to be. And he does this for a certain reasons. If you look into it, he did it for Moses. He did it for all. He did it for Samson. He did it for all those who lose heart and feel powerless. And this is how God, Yah, restores us. We go to 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 5. And I love this verse so much. And as he lay and slept under a Jupiter tree, behold, then an angel touched him and said unto him, Arise and eat. With that, he said while he was sleeping, an angel had touched him. That means that Yah had sent somebody to administer to Elijah because he was hurting. But go before that. Go to verse 4. And this is what astounds me. This is how scared Elijah was. He was so scared and he ran so far. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down unto a juniper tree. And he requested for himself that he might die and said, This is enough now. O Lord, take away my life, for I am not better than my fathers. This man was so scared that he ran a whole day, and then he just gave up on the tree. He said, Lord, I can't take it. Just kill me now. And you have to be careful. This was brought to my spirit. You have to be careful of what you say, your words that you choose, because there's life and death in the tongue. And when we say little things like that, oh, Dan, I just wish I'd die. Oh, I can't take this anymore. Oh, kill me, Lord. Oh, take me now, Lord. I want to go see your glory right now. You got to be careful of what you say. Or, I wish you'd kill my enemies. Or take my boss out. I just wish you'd just die. Or I even heard that saying about loved ones. I wish you'd just kill my ex-husband or kill my ex-wife. Or just take him out. You got to be careful because y'all is listening. And you'd be surprised that the words he can use can be used against you in a court of law. And that's what Satan's going to use against you, the accuser. So you have to be careful about that. Elijah was so tormented that he said that himself. Like I said, here's a man of God, so powerful, got everything going for him, so anointed that he's giving out orders, take the prophets down there to get killed, put the wood on there. He's giving out orders. Man in charge that he just gave. Now the next day he's running for his life and he's asking for y'all to take his life, to kill me right now so I don't have to go through all this. So I just want to bring that to your attention. But going back to that verse 5, y'all has heard all this, and this is how he restores Elijah. He restores his confidence. He restores him back to his place of power. He sent an angel to touch him. And we're just going back to that perfect love. Not many times in the Bible have I seen actually an angel come down and touch somebody. We know that Jacob, we wrestle with Jacob and things like that. Usually the angel comes and speaks. And then at a distance and said, like he did for Hagar. He said, Hagar, take thy son and go back to your master's house. Usually angels talk. This angel touched him in an intimacy kind of way, a relationship kind of way. Let him know that Elijah, that Yah has heard you, and he's with you right now. But still, Elijah was still, out of it, still scared, and still fretting for his life. So the provision of Yah was that he said, go to verse 6, he said, and he looked, and behold, there was a cake baking, and on the coals, and a cruse of water at his head. And he did eat and drink and lay down again. So first, Yah came down to see him and make sure and to comfort him. But also, he fed Elijah. But what's so funny, I was thinking about me and my flesh, like me being a man of color. What do we do after we eat a big meal? Turn around and go back to sleep. And that's what Elijah did. But that was peace and that was rest. So I think Elijah did know that Yah was in his presence. But then again, look on verse 7. And the angel of the Lord came again a second time and touched him and said, Arise and eat, because the journey is too great for thee. What it was saying here is that the first time should have been good enough for Elijah to know, to get the hint that Yah is still with him. I still have his favor. I'm still powerful. I'm still under his protection. And he ate and went back to sleep. But so the second time, the angel had to come and did reconfirm and show Elijah that I am with you. He touched him again to show him that I am with you. I am near to thee. He said, Arise and eat, because the journey is too great for thee. Meaning that, Elijah, I got something for you to do. You're not going to die. I need you to go somewhere and do this mission, complete your calling that I have. He's given confirmation by the angel that you are still my guy. Am I? So he wasn't getting, he was kind of missing the point, and we do that too, and that's what fear does. When you get so much fear, you forget who's with you and who is for you at that point. But when you are in the presence of Yah, you are in the presence of His power. And we forget that. Because Elijah, most of us like Elijah, we're in our own pity party, like he was saying. And I'll show you when we, in verse 9. And when he came thither unto the cave and lodged there, and behold, the word of the Lord came to him, and he said to him, What doest thou here, Elijah? And again, like Adam, this is the Yah with this rhetorical question, being a counselor again. Basically, was saying, what are you doing here, man of God? You're not supposed to basically, you're not supposed to be here. What are you doing here? You done ate, you done slept, you're well rested, you got things to do. And then, this is what Elijah, like I said, because of Jezebel, this man was the mighty man of God, commanding the troops to kill all the prophets, turns into this little whining child. Going back to that child, when the father comes into the room in the dark night, when the child is screaming, he said, What's wrong? What you crying about? What do kids do? They start crying. There's a monster underneath my bed and I'm just so scared like this. This was Elijah was doing when Yah asked him, What are you doing here? Look at verse 10.
Wow.
He said, I've been very jealous for the Lord Yah of hosts, for the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thy altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And even I only am left, and they seek my life to take it away. What he was doing, he was whining to Yah about what his problems was and why he was still in that cave. And once again, Elijah wasn't getting it. The father, Abba, was speaking to him, like the bishop said. I'd rather for Yah to speak to me in a voice and speak to me and not at all. He wasn't getting it. He was so scared and terrified. His father was speaking to him right there and asking him what his problems were. And he allowed him to speak, being a great counselor that Yah is. And this is what Yah said. He said, Go forth, stand upon the mount before the Lord, and behold, the Lord passed by, and a great strong wind rent the mountains and brake in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind and an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire was a still voice. And what here Yah was doing was he was explaining to Elijah how powerful he is, that he spoke to the universe into existence. When he speaks, like the bishop said, when he speaks the word, it moves mountains, shakes the ground, it causes earthquakes. But Yah says, I don't have to do that. I'm so powerful that even if I whisper, I can get the same effect. That's what he's trying to tell Elijah. What he's telling Elijah was, I'm with you whether you hear, whether I burn up the whole mountain at Mount Carmel, or I'm with you here in a whisper of the wind. I'm still the same, Yah. I'm still powerful, and you have nothing to fear. I never left. I was with you all the time. But we be so scared and we listen to the voice of the enemy that we don't know that Yah is with us. He said He'll never leave us or forsake us. And that shows the presence of Yah and also the power of Yah. And in verse 13, it said, and it was so when Elijah heard it that he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out and stood in the entering of the cave. And behold, there came a voice unto him and said, Again, what doest thou here, Elijah? What it is, Elijah's finally snapping out of it. He's trying to realize that I am in the presence of the most powerful high Yah. And then he came to himself and wrapped himself, lest he forgot the power of him. And when he explained it to him, it finally hit him in the head like a ton of bricks. Then he started getting himself together and remember who he's in the presence of. And then once again, Yah, in his rhetorical question, now that I showed you, now that I fed you, now that I showed you my power, now that you remember, why are you still here in this cave? And again, he's still overcome by fear. And you know what? The Spirit brought to me, this is like PTSD. He got so fearful, that's so embedded in him that it shook Elijah so much that he was traumatized. And this is traumatized because Yah had showed him everything. He gave him provisions. He gave him protection. He showed him his presence. He showed him his power. And he still whined in verse 14. He said, Why are you still here? And he said the same thing. And he said, I've been very jealous for the Lord. Very jealous. It goes with zealous. Jealous for the Lord and the God of hosts, because the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thy altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left. And they seek my life and to take it away. So Elijah, after all that was done and said to him, he still was worried about a lady and her death threats. But he forgot about the power and the provision and protection of Yah that is displayed only in 2 meals. And in chapter 18, when he burned up the whole Mount Carmel with the fire of Yah and killed all the prophets in the name of his glory. So as Yah, if we don't get it, then Yah takes his matter in his own hands. And then sometimes when we don't get what's going on, he shows us the plan. And he reveals things to us. And that's what happened in verse 15. And the Lord said unto him, Go, return on thy way to the wilderness of Damascus, and when thou comest, anoint Hazael to be king over Syria. And Jehu the son of Nimshi shalt thou anoint to be king over Israel. And Elijah the son of Shaphat of Abedmathal shalt thou anoint to be prophet in thy room. And it come to pass that him that escaped the sword of Hazael shall Jehu slay, and him that escaped from the sword of Jehu shall Elijah slay. So right there, Yah was, I guess he was like, same way we did with Moses. Moses wasn't getting it, so Yah had to explain to Moses what his master plan was, some of it. When he was telling, all right, go to Egypt because I'm going to deliver the people. I'm going to get Aaron. Then I'm going to go to Pharaoh. I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to bring these plagues down there. And then I'm going to get out of Egypt. So sometimes when we don't get it, when we're so beside ourselves, Yah has to give us his master plan like he did with Elijah. The same thing. It's the same concept that he did for Moses, the prophet of Moses. He did the same thing for Elijah. He gave him the provision. He gave him the protection. He showed his presence. He showed his power when he threw down the staff and everything like that. And then that still wasn't getting it. He told Moses his plan. He did the same thing for Elijah. And when Elijah, and then after the plan, he remembered the promise. And that's when he got up and then he went forth to do what Yah told him to do. Everybody's in a cave. In some kind of cave, and I know a cave means some kind of darkness, and you're afraid of something. My question is I want to say this, what are you hiding from? And another question is, why are we still there? Like he told the man, the prophet Elijah, why are you still there when you know you have this power? You know you're anointed. You know you have favor. Why are you still in your cave? And the last question is if Yah called you out there, you shouldn't be here. Why are you afraid of anyone and anything if you have the power of Yah? There's nothing to be afraid of because he is perfect love. Remember what I said. If you are in perfect love, you should not fear anything, except Yah. And like I said, if you're fear of Yah, that means that's the first thing from wisdom and knowledge. All right. And one person, Joseph. I love Joseph too. Next to King David, I love Joseph because Joseph, he was thrown into some situations too. If you go back to Genesis, Joseph, he was thrown in some kind of cave, or I call them pits. Remember, Joseph was thrown in the pit. Then he was thrown into Potiphar's house, another pit. Then he was thrown into prison. Then he was thrown into the palace. Then he was thrown into a problem, the pestilence. I call those the P's. But look what Yah did. Every time, Yah has a P for everything else. Remember, Joseph was thrown into a pit, but Yah showed his provision. He was thrown into Potiphar's house. Yah showed his protection. He covered Joseph to make sure he wouldn't sin with Potiphar's wife. Then, because of that, Joseph was thrown into prison. But then in prison, Yah showed his presence. He was with Joseph. After that, he was thrown into a palace, or I call palace equal to politics. Palace is politics. Palace is good, but you have more money, more problems. Bigger palace, bigger politics. And then when he was thrown into the politics of the palace, Yah showed his power. And then when he was thrown into that problem about the famine, about how you're going to save Egypt, because now, remember, you're in politics, and you're the king, You get all this problem, they look to you, just like they did Moses. They said, how are you going to get us this problem? And then the people will rebel against you. But when they came with the problem, y'all showed his plan, and then came his promise. So Joseph showed that he had faith through everything that he went through. It never ended. So that's why Yah was with him, and it showed everything to him that he got out of it. And if you look at it, and it hit me in my spirit that, do you know how many times I read that the Lord was with Joseph in that book of Genesis? First, Genesis, the most part of the Genesis is the story of Joseph. If you look at Genesis, most of the part of Genesis, the book of Genesis is about Joseph. So that means right there, you know that y'all has something he wanted you to hear from Genesis, because of Joseph is told throughout the book in the chapter of Genesis. I read that the Lord was with Joseph at least 7 times in Genesis. And when he said that the Lord was with Joseph at least 7 times, that means Yah was making a point that no matter what situation you was in the pit, Potiphar's house, prison, palace, you got a problem, Yah was with you. Yah was with you in your problems. Even in Exodus, go to Exodus chapter 1, and I'm almost done. And drive this on home. Go to Exodus chapter 1. Again, it shows that repeatedly that Yah is with you. And it takes the man of God to even tell Joshua that don't be afraid. I am with you. You go to Exodus chapter 1, verse 5. And it says, all souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70, and the souls of Joseph where Egypt was ready. I'm sorry. Not Exodus. Go to Joshua. Yeah, got that one. Let's go to Joshua, because it is about Joshua. This is the commissioning of Joshua. Moses is they're ready to go to the promised land. Moses is handing over the staff, handing over the controls and reins to Joshua. Now go to verse 5. Joshua, chapter 1, verse 5. There shall not be any man be able to stand before thee all the days of thy life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with thee. I will not fail thee, not forsake thee. And this was the Lord talking to Joshua. Even in verse 6, be strong and of good courage, for unto this people shalt thou divide an inheritance the land. Again, the promises. He said, that's your land, which I swear unto their fathers to give them. Again, going to the promises of Abraham, the promised land. So he's telling Joshua one more pep talk. Go into the land. I am with thee. Be of good courage. It's your land. Go take the land. One thing I was thinking about, a house where we live in now, growing up. My father, that house was new. It was built from the ground up. It was on the land. So we had to purchase that land before you could build the house. And I remember my father going there, driving there while the house was being built, and seeing how everything was, and because of the land. The land was promised to him because he paid for it. When you pay for it, it means it's a promise to you, and you get that receipt. So that's the same thing as Joshua, the same thing that Yah was telling Moses and the children of Israel. That land was promised to you. Now go over there and start plotting where you want your house to be built at. And that's the same thing that he was telling Joshua, don't be afraid, because it's yours. I'm going to move everything from you. It's for you. Go to verse 9 one more time. And these are all in the first 9 verses of the book of Joshua. It is encouraging Joshua to be strong. Verse 9, have I not commanded thee? And what does the bishop say about command, about being in the military? He said a command is an order. So what he's ordered, he's not. The last verse sounds like a suggestion from Yah. He said, a pep talk. Now, like he did Elijah the second time, the third time, now I'm commanding you. I'm ordering you. Yes. Have I not commanded thee? Be strong and of a good courage. Be not afraid. He's telling them, be not afraid. There's no fear in perfect love. Neither be thou dismayed, for the Lord thy God is with thee, whithersoever thou goest. So whether you are in a cave, or if you are in the wilderness, he is already there. He goes before thee. See, Elijah didn't remember that, and then he turned tail. because he forgot the promises. He forgot everything that y'all had did for him a few days ago. He forgot all those things. And the last thing I want to hit on, I have to go to the New Testament and talk about Yeshua, Jesus. And when I dropped in my spirit, Yeshua didn't hang around in no tombs, in no caves. If you look at it, you go to Luke 8, chapter 8, verse 1. And I'll hit you with this. And Luke chapter 8, and let's skip down. We're not going to read it. You just know the story that after Jesus was on the boat and they got to the other side where their destination, there was a demon-possessed man that was living in the tombs. And that's where he lived at because he was demon-possessed, and that's where death lives at, and evil, in the tomb. But as the story goes, when Jesus got to the other side and got out the boat, the man ran out of the tombs and came and ran to Yeshua and dropped at his feet and worshiped him. He did not have to go into the tomb. As soon as he got on ground, the man ran out of the tomb and ran to Yeshua. So that hit me right there when he said that. So like I said, Yeshua, he doesn't hang around in no tombs. And again, and then another one, Lazarus' tomb. Remember? Yeshua, he was already, they got word that Lazarus was sick, and then he said, well, I'll stay a couple of days here. Then he left to go see about Lazarus. When he got there, he found out that Lazarus was sick or Lazarus was dead. Well, he got word that Lazarus was sick or dead, asleep, but he was really dead. So Yeshua went to Lazarus. But then what happened there? He called Lazarus out of the tomb. He called him out of the tomb. He didn't go in there. And you look at the other miracles, Yeshua went into the room. The little girl, Peter's mom, he went to the room. He went to them. A couple of them, like, of course, with the Gentiles, he just said, go, your servant as well, or whatnot. But he went to the rooms, but he didn't go into the tombs. And the last one, the greatest tomb, was the tomb that Yeshua was buried in. He didn't stay in the tomb. As a matter of fact, remember, that tomb was borrowed. It wasn't even his tomb. You think about it, how can Yeshua have a tomb when he was not destined to be in a tomb? It would go against everything that he spoke about. So the tomb, it was an empty tomb. On the third day, when the ladies went there, they found the stone turned away, it was an empty tomb. It wasn't even his tomb, it was a borrowed tomb. He just had to use that tomb because of the Sabbath. Shabbat day was coming, so they had to throw him in there. But I was thinking in my spirit, if Yeshua knew that he was going to be stayed in the tomb, he would have purchased his own tomb. And that was the custom back then, like in Abraham and Jacob's time, was to purchase a family plot, a tomb. But he knew he wasn't going to be in that tomb. He knew he was going to die, but he knew he wasn't going to be in no tomb. That's why he hadn't purchased no tomb. Once again, like I said, Jesus didn't hang out in no tombs. So why should we? So the last thing I want to say then, last question I want to ask you, what doest thou here? Why are you still in your cave? Am I? And may y'all have blessing in reading on the word and the scripture and the sermon today. I hope it's blessed you. It's like it's blessed me.
All right, speak your name, everything. Say who you are.
This is Richard Harrison, brother to Bishop and Minister Ron Harrison, Jacksonville, North Carolina. Thank you.
Yes, I'll talk to tape. All right, brother did good. Man, he talking about the tomb. I like that. I never thought about that, about the tombs. That when you get scared, you run in tombs, and instead of running to Yahusha, you're running back into the tombs, and you fear it out, and they keep on talking about the tombs, where everybody was at the tombs, and they fear, instead of crying out to Yahuwah. Yahuwah is our strength and our power. Well done, brother. You did good. I learned some stuff. That's why I have my ministers speak today. Even though I'm preparing to go to Kush, but I'm thankful I can sit down and listen. He said some key spots, about Yahushua. All right, again, I ask everybody to keep me in prayer. I am about to go to Kush. to see the churches over there. So like I said, I ain't running into no tombs. I'm running to Yahusha. I'm going to go see some people be healed, delivered, and hear the word, the dog ring. But has anybody heard this word today and they received it, and you have fear? Like you said, perfect love casts out all fear. That perfect love is in Yahusha. That's what perfect love is, that you are solemnly in his care. Just like you said, perfect love is in Yah. They, like you said, when Elijah first time, heard about Yah, talking about Mount Carmel, and talking about he wasn't scared of nothing. And like how you said, used King David as Goliath, he wasn't scared of nothing. That was perfect love. That's all they knew. They knew the power of it. They didn't have no fear. But when you have fear, say you don't have no perfect love. You're missing out on Yah. You're not all over Yah. There's no perfect. It's not of all of Yah. You have bits and pieces, but you need all of Yahuwah. It's a perfect love casts out all fear. When you perfect love means you're not scared of anything. You know what all of y'all can do. Okay, I'll leave the doors open. Anybody for salvation? You can speak salvation in here. You must be born again of the water and spirit. Water is baptism, the spirit is the rock of dish, the Holy Ghost. But baptism is for the remission of sins. You have any sins on you, you have been out there committing sins, anything away from Yah, and you want to get your sins taken off, you repent, you believe in the Most High, you believe that Yahusha is the Savior of the world, is the Son of Yah, He's the one of the atonement, you believe in Him, you believe what He came for, and then you come to the man of Yah and say, I want to be baptized, I'm the one to be baptized in you, or somebody in your presence that believes in the same thing for baptism for the remission of sins. That's why you get baptized, get your sins taken off. No man will see Yah unless you get your sins taken off. That's why he said, Yahuwah said, no man shall see the kingdom of Yah unless you're born again of the water and the spirit. Water is baptism. Don't let nobody tell you you want to be baptized. They tell you you're lying. If they say you have to be baptized, they're lying to you. You're going to miss out. And I was thinking about this yesterday. And Yahusha says, any man coming the other way is a thief and a robber. And I thought about the robber part. They are robbing you of your blessings, man. They robbed you, man. When some man tell you want to be baptized, not to be saved, they done robbed you for eternal life. They told you something. That's why I said, any man coming the other way, he's a thief and a robber. You come in some other way that y'all told you. You know what I'm saying? You come some other way. So again, I leave the doors open. I gave you the numbers to Bethel. Again, I am Bishop Ronald K. Harrison Jr. of Bethel Saturday Church. The creed of the Bethel is Ephesians 4:5. We believe in one Yah, one faith, one baptism. And Ephesians chapter 2, verse 20, our foundation built upon the apostles and the prophets. Yahushua Mashiach is the chief cornerstone. The phone number here at Bethel is 910-388-5295. My phone, Bishop phone number, if you need to get in contact with me, is 910-381-3056. I usually mention this before the service, but we're having a problem with the camera and stuff, so I'm letting you know right now. If you need to get in contact me with the time of the service, again, we're in Shabbat. Today is the 10th of November, 2018. Then we got Yom Revi on Yom Revi. Yahuwah study straight in the Torah at 7. Then on the beginning of Shabbat is a Yom Shishi at 7 o'clock. Again, those are the times of the service. I do welcome you to come to the house of Yah. Again, we're here at 118 Cheney Avenue, Jacksonville, North Carolina. That's Allen County, 28540. I'm out, man. Blessed. I say salutations to Pastor Desiree and to all the churches over in Kush. Your bishop says salutations. The Pastor Jacob in North India, I say salutations, continue winning on souls. Bishop Katori, which he's still here. I had a chance to see him the other day. I pray for him. And Pastor Colston and Pastor Gombella in India, Bishop says salutation. May y'all bless thee and keep thee. May y'all make his face shine upon thee, be gracious to thee. May y'all live his contemplate, give you peace in Yahushua's name. May y'all make you ride on a high place of earth, feed with the heritage of Jacob, with the heritage of Joseph, with the heritage of Abraham. For the mouth of Yah spoken, for the mouth is spoken in Yahushua's name.